Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and we thank you for joining us here on another Friday during our Caribbean Touring Car Pre-Season Showcase. My name is Chad Dillon. I am not the host you've been accustomed to over the last few weeks, but I dare say I am a returning legend. El Presidente looking at me funny. Yes, we thank you for joining us here as we get ready to go racing in a few moments' time. I say a few moments, it's about 8.5 minutes left in this practice session before we get into qualifying. But we are going racing at Silverstone. Now, this is not the Grand Prix circuit, it is the international layout of the Silverstone circuit. So everything after the loop and before Maggots and Beckett's is gone. So you get the, depending on the series that you're racing in, the first half or the second half of the lap. Looking at the grid this evening, we see that there is a favored vehicle in this particular round of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. Half the grid is in the Chevy Cruze, and I see three drivers out there: Joshua Brady, Nick Donaldson, and Tremblay in the Honda Civic, and Stephen Pommel's the lone driver in the Ford Focus. So, an interesting race on our hands. The times looking as quick as we've seen them on the servers all week. Miss Ravenplum at the top of the timing sheets on a 1:11.0. I've only seen one faster time done during the course of this week by Mr. Jaden Harrison, who has managed a 1:10.8. So certainly these times are looking quite competitive, and the top 5 are actually separated by less than a second. The top 3 separated by about half a second, and the rest of the grid looking fairly close together. So we might have several races playing out as we go through the duration of this evening. And again, as I mentioned, this is the international layout of the Silverstone circuit. This version of the track has played host to a great many series, namely British Touring Car Championship, British Superbike Championship, and International Endurance races. And just like British Touring Car Championship, this is the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. So certainly, although we are doing this virtually and those were real life events, we will be getting some of the action that this track is accustomed to seeing, but in the Caribbean's own unique way. We like to put our own spin on things, that is for sure. And so certainly we look forward to the action that will be provided as we are riding up on board with Mr. Roger Robinson, who currently sits P2 on the timing sheets, just ahead of Jaden Harrison, who is in the pits. Jaden Harrison on a 1:11.375, Roger Robinson on a 1:11.30, and maybe is going a bit quicker. He did improve in Sector 1, but has backed out of the lap for some reason. And we know Roger Robinson, Mr. Sandbag himself, so certainly maybe thinking, oh, I found some pace there, let me not put it on display just yet. Let's just wait for the qualifying session and blow these people away. But as we are gearing up to the anticipated race here, we will be having 2 races this evening, both 20 minutes plus 1 lap. The first, the grid order will be set by qualifying, and the second will be a reverse grid of the top 10 based on their finishing position. So certainly lots to play for, and there will be action on track because, especially in that second race where you have the quicker drivers or the drivers that manage to finish ahead of the rest of the pack having to fight their way through the field in order to get back into any kind of domineering position. And as we have been having this discussion, Raven Plummer has found herself in the 110s, the second driver this week to do so. And so certainly there is some action to come our way, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the lull period between sessions as qualifying will be coming at you in the next minute and change. And I am looking at the grid. There is some safe money in assuming that their top spot will be held by one of the two sandbaggers out there, Mr. Jaden Harrison or Mr. J. Robinson. However, if Raven Plummer has anything to say about it, as she is currently the top of the timing sheets, certainly we are in for an interesting qualifying session. And let's not sleep on the rest of the grid because the top four are separated by just over half a second. So certainly there is something to be said for Roger Keller getting a shout in the top three positions. Maybe could even make a push up hole as an outside, as a dark horse, dare I say. And further down the order, coming out of the practice session, Stephen Pommels. And who's to say some of these drivers aren't holding something back in the hopes of making their mark in the qualifying session. We are maybe looking at a mid 110 for qualifying, and the track is dark, ladies and gentlemen. Will that be anything to go? Yes, it is. So it seems that we will be having a night race here for the first round of the evening, and I am not entirely sure if that was planned. However, this is racing. Conditions aren't always as ideal as you'd expect them to be, but we will certainly look to see what this means for the grid to come. So I've just been informed by the powers that be that no, this was not the plan and it will be addressed accordingly. So certainly give us a moment and we will get the grid set up correctly to go racing in qualifying. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have addressed the issues at hand and the drivers are now out for the quali session. And again, we're looking for somewhere near the mid 110s as pole times, and we could be proven very wrong with that assumption, and we get times maybe even a little quicker than that, but we shall see as we progress through the qualifying session. The temperatures are a lot lower than they have been for most of the week during the practice servers, so certainly we will see if that plays any role in the qualifying session. Jaden Harrison, the first driver out, and leads the field, and he should be getting onto a flying lap in about 3 corners time, as he is now going through the last 2 corners to head back onto start finish straight. And as he approaches the line, we will be getting going racing, well, qualifying I should say. So Jaden Harrison, the first driver to get out on a flyer, and Stephen Pommels, I believe, is right behind him on his way on a flyer as well. So we will watch what these two drivers do by the time we get back to the line. Jaden Harrison a little wide there going through loop, and as he gets on the exit of Beckett's, very wide there on that exit heading down the hangar straight, and that should complete sector 1. Only 2 sectors in the international layout of Silverstone, as it is a short track. It is roughly 3.194 kilometers, or just under 2 miles, 1.984 miles. So not a particularly long track, and hence we're getting times of 1:10. And as these cars are a little down on power, certainly it is more conducive to the racing to have the shorter layout as opposed to the full-length Silverstone, where lap times were looking to be around the 2:19s. And I guess early days in the qualifying session, as Jaden Harrison's first flyer is a 1:11.4, followed by Stephen Pommels on a 1:11.9, and I'm sure the track needs to be rubbered in a bit coming off of the servo reset, so maybe times will get quicker as we get towards the end of the session with these drivers pounding around. Mark Anthony Eaton jumps right up into the mix early on, and he is a driver that has been missing in action for some time as Roger Robinson goes to the top of the timing sheets. But we are on board with Jaden Harrison, who does have the quickest sector 1 at the moment, and as he rounds the end of the hangar straight heading towards the final chicane before the blast to the line, we will see if he has any improvements here to match Roger Robinson ahead of the pack on a 1:11.1. And what does Jaden Harrison have for us there? He has gone into the 1:10s, ladies and gentlemen, a 1:10.9, and certainly there is still more on the table, I am sure, and we will see who has the audacity to match him. Roger Robinson and Raven Plummer certainly not too far behind, just about 2:10 separating both of them from Jaden Harrison, and they have almost matched each other on their valid flying laps so far. So certainly as we progress through this qualifying session, we will see if there's any more on the table for these drivers to push their way up the order, and for anybody else to challenge the front of the pack. So 5 minutes having elapsed in this quali session so far, these drivers are giving it their all, trying to secure themselves pole position for race number 1 of the evening, and that is the all-important starting position to secure yourself the best chance at a victory, because if you win the first race, you will be starting from plumb last in the second race. Well, second to last, as there are 11 drivers on the grid and only the top 10 are reversed. But you certainly want to start as strong as you possibly can, and at the moment Jaden Harrison has given himself the best chance to do so. The sole driver sub 111 so far, and I'm sure these other drivers will have something to say about that as we progress. But Miss Raven Plummer, they're looking a little bit wide on the exit of club, and that might certainly not help her chances of improving on this lap. She does improve ever so slightly, however, but not yet enough to challenge Jaden Harrison, just under a 10 separating the top two at the moment. And certainly, once again, I'm sure there's more on the cards, so we will keep abreast at this battle as Stephen Pommels has slotted himself into 4th position, just ahead of Mark Anthony Eaton. The top 5 are separated by just under 0.8 of a second, so we will certainly have to see what else is out there to challenge, particularly the front 3, and the front 3 are looking very, very tight at the moment, as Jaden Harrison did improve slightly, but it was not enough to have him feeling any more comfortable than he was before. So certainly there is more on the table for some of these drivers. We have not yet reached the quickest times we have seen all week, much less the quickest times today, so we will be on the lookout to see if there's any more on offer for these drivers to challenge for the top spot. And the battle is heating up, ladies and gentlemen. Jaden Harrison a 1:10.8, Roger Robinson a 1:10.9, and just about a tenth separating those two drivers, with Raven Plummer not too far adrift. Looking up and down the timing sheets, there is some improvement happening for Roger Keller at the moment, having completed Sector 1 and is heading into the final chicane before the line, as he has gone through Vale and he is now heading to club. Is there any improvement for Roger Keller to challenge the top 5 at the moment? No, not quite finding the grip just yet, and we have gone through just under 2/3 of the quali session. I don't know if the track is going to get much better rubbered in than it is now. I mean, certainly with the drivers still thundering around, there might be more grip yet to be found, but we will have to wait and see if there are still improvements to come. And as we watch along, the top 5 drivers, really and truly, not much in it between, well, the top 4 in particular, not much in it between the 4 of them, just about half a second. Mark Anthony Eaton a little bit adrift of the front 4, and we will certainly see if he has anything to offer as we proceed. But it really is just looking like there are 2 cars out there. There's just a 2-car preference for this race here this evening. Most of the drivers at the front are driving the Chevy Cruze, and every driver from 8 down in the Honda Civic. So maybe the Honda not the car of choice here this evening, but certainly it is a preference of driving styles, as these cars are pretty evenly balanced, dare I say. All of these cars should be pretty much balanced on power and not much in it in terms of downforce. So yeah, it comes down to driving style preferences and feel of car to see if these drivers are maybe it's just who has the most daring in some of these corners, because I see a very different set of lines, particularly on the exit of Beckett. Some drivers abusing that exit altogether, using as much of the track as possible or chucking the car in as early as possible and just getting on that pole. Dare I say there are advantages in both approaches, but it's just who does it better at the end of it all. And I think I see Jaden Harrison still finding improvements out there, having improved upon his personal best sector one, and having gone through the end of the hangar straight there, getting a little wide on the exit of Stowe. We will see if there is any improvement on this lap. I don't think there is much improvement to be found. I think that very wide exit out of Stowe may have cost him, so when he gets back to the line we will see no improvement there, and I think it may have also invalidated that lap with the abuse of that exit. There is some improvement happening for Pommels, who is on the approach to Vale, and that is the final chicane before I mean, there is a corner there known as Club, but you once you get on the exit of Vale, it is pretty much flat out all the way back to the line. Is there some improvement there for Pommels? Yes, there is, and the top four are now separated by just about 0.3 of a second. That is a very tight race, ladies and gentlemen. That top four is going to be fighting tooth and nail. It all comes down to consistency when drivers are bunched together like that. Further back, Joshua Brady just about 0.2 off Roger Keller, who is in 6th position. I'm not sure what's happening with Roger, because certainly he had shown that he has a little bit more pace than has yet been displayed in this qualifying session. But I am also seeing where he has a very high ping rate, and that ping rate could be causing him a little bit of glitching and inconsistency. So certainly that wouldn't be helping his chances of putting together a strong lap with other drivers close by at all times, as most drivers are trying to get as many laps in as possible during the qualifying session. But we will see if he can find any improvement. I am looking at the timing sheets, and Raven Plummer has also dropped into the sub 111s, and she just missed out on pipping Roger Robinson for second position by 5,000ths of a second. And if that's not telling you what we are in store for between that front three, ladies and gentlemen, I am chomping at the bit to see that race unfold. Those three drivers certainly look to be getting ready to put on a show for us here this evening, and most drivers will have maybe one more flying lap to complete at the end of their current lap, as the time is now under a minute left in the qualifying session. I think Miss Raven Plummer is done, as she is in the pits, as is Jaden Harrison and Joshua Brady. So all eyes on Roger Robinson, and he is just coming out of Stowe on the way to Vale, so he will have time for one more flyer. Can he trouble Jaden Harrison at the top of the timing sheet? Needs about a 10th and a little bit in order to take that top spot away. So we will ride on board with the sandbag king to see if he has been holding anything back during this session. And as he goes through Abbey, the first corner of the lap, which is basically just a small lift and then back on the power, and now he is braking in the preparation for Village, and I'm a little behind as he is now going through Beckett's, and as you can see there, Roger Robinson doing both, abusing the entry and the exit, and that is probably the quickest way through that corner. So we will see he has found some improvement in that first sector, so it is looking very promising for Roger Robinson here to upset Jaden Harrison in the 25th hour as the qualifying time has elapsed, and braking for Vale a little late on the brakes there, it seems, turning in quite aggressively. Now comes Club, and has he done enough to offset Jaden Harrison for pole position? Not quite. He did improve, but there is still about half a tenth in it separating those two drivers. That final sector not coming together ever so nicely for Roger Robinson. I think it all unwound for him on that break point he chose going into Vale. Maybe had he broken just a smidge earlier, we could have had a different driver on pole here this evening. But that's racing, ladies and gentlemen. It can't all go to plan all the time, and certainly you are pushing and you want the most out of the lap, so that that mentality sometimes working against you in terms of what needs to be done. And Roger Robinson just missing out on pole by half a tenth, and Raven Plummer in third position a further half a tenth back. So the top three have a gap between each of them of half a tenth of a second, and if that does not give you goosebumps for the race to come, you're not a racing fan. We will certainly be looking for that action to unfold on the track in the coming moments, as we are in the cool down period between sessions at the moment. They will be lining up on the grid to get going for race number one of the evening. 20 minutes with an extra lap. That should give us roughly, I want to say somewhere in the region of 18 laps of racing. So we can look forward to what is to come. This will be a safety car start, so there will be a rolling start to happen. The safety car will lead the pack away for lap number one, and that will then give the grid a chance to form up and get some momentum for the start of the race. And you know that somewhat mitigates some of the first lap incidents, and as long as the drivers try their best to keep it clean at the end of the safety car lap, we should get some good racing action, particularly in the front. I mean, the top three are only separated by half a tenth each, but Stephen Pommels is not somebody to be slept on, just about 2 or 3 tenths back from the front three. So certainly they will have to keep an eye on Stephen Pommels in their rearview mirror. Mark Anthony Eaton and Roger Keller will also be locked in a battle, I am sure, as those two drivers separated by about a tenth of a second, and Eaton will be trying to hold on to that top 5 finish in his return. He has been missing in action for a bit with some technical issues with his rig, but good to have him back here on the grid this evening, and certainly would like to punctuate that debut, ideally with a podium, but just looking at the pace difference, he may not be in that fight right now. However, we are racing, ladies and gentlemen, so who is to say that more will not come from it? And whilst we are awaiting the start of the race, it is good to mention that 2 of the drivers on our grid here this evening participated in the DAU GT3 Solo Endurance Cup today, Mr. Jaden Harrison and Joshua Brady. Jaden Harrison taking P2 on the road and Joshua Brady coming home in P7. Both drivers doing their utmost, and I'm being told that P1 and P6 were on the cards, if not for a few strategic errors that resulted in the need for some late fuel-saving tactics to come into play. But nonetheless, still brilliant results for those two drivers as we are now awaiting the lights. And remember, the lights will not indicate the start of the race. It will indicate the safety car to lead the pack away, and that will then give us, as we see the Porsche go by, and now the grid needs to form up and run one lap behind the safety car, maintaining their speed and also ensuring that they do not break the speed limit when it comes to that. As you can see displayed on the screen at the moment, the safety car icon that tells the drivers where they need to be. Jaden Harrison right on the back of the safety car there, maybe giving El Presidente, who is our safety car driver at the moment, the hurry up to get going. He might be eager to try and put some distance between himself and Roger Robinson, who is right there with him on the timing sheets, as is Miss Raven Plum up behind, and all of the drivers probably getting very antsy in anticipation of the race to come. And now we are heading into the period of the leader controlling the pace of the grid. Speed limit should be set to 80 kilometers an hour, as we have Stowe, Vale and Club to go before we get going racing, as we're now going through Stowe. And the drivers will be forming up double file in a moment. Well, they should be double file at the moment, heading into the final few corners, so that they can get cracking with the racing action. And we are now preparing for excitement to unfold. Jaden Harrison there getting very aggressive through the last few corners there. And I see Roger Robinson backing off a bit, maybe trying to get a good run. Speed limit at 80, and these drivers will now be preparing to go racing in a few moments time. And we have green lights, and Jaden Harrison immediately swiping across to give Roger Robinson nowhere to go, and then through the first corner of Abbey, and there's some contact further back, and that is Roger Keller tumbling down the order along with Kimani Eastman and Mark Anthony Eaton. And that is a rough start, and I believe I heard the call for a safety car as Jaden Harrison is backing out to ensure that the rest of the grid can reform. We should have instant replays coming to you this season, so we could look back at action such as that in the future. But Jaden Harrison currently controlling the pace of the grid, having had incidents unfold there in the first few corners. So the safety car has been called and the grid has reformed, and once we get to the final, once we get this driver Joshua Brady, who end up at the back of the pack, coming through the final corner, then we should be going racing once more. But the front three maintain their position. Stephen Pommels lost out to Gilles in the first few corners there, who find himself in fourth position. But the big loser is Mr. Mark Anthony Eaton, who started P5 and is now all the way down in P9 with some work to do. And I'm sure he might be in for a very frustrating, what looks to be about 16 minutes of racing action, trying to get by some of these drivers. And there is somebody off the grid there. That is Stephen Pommels off the grid. through the final corner, and I'm not sure what happened to Pommels there, but that was rather unfortunate. And Jaden Harrison has taken charge of the field on the safety car restart, and he has created about half a second gap between himself and Roger Robinson. Raven Plummer, however, right there with Roger, and will certainly be looking to get involved in that action very, very soon. Mark Anthony Eaton on the restart, getting quite... I have lost for words. From P9 back to P5 in the span of 3 corners. So Mark Anthony Eaton wasting no time trying to get going here in the racing action, but the front 3 are still tooth and nail. Raven Plummer seems to have fallen away just a bit from the front fight, but certainly whatever that error may have been, she will be coming right back into contention as these two start to fight. But will they play it smart? Because the smart move here, ladies and gentlemen, is you are the 2 fastest drivers on the grid. There is no need to fight amongst yourselves. You just get through the few laps, use each other to kind of pull each other along and clear the rest of the field, and then maybe later on you can start to look at having that fight for that position. That would be the smart way to play it. However, these are racing drivers, and nobody ever accused racing drivers of being ones to employ the smart tactics. You want to win, and you want to win bad. But Raven Plummer there just a bit behind the field coming along. And the front 3, there is a marginal gap there between the front 3, but Mark Anthony Eaton looking to be all over Gilles there, and is looking to make that move through Stowe. Can he get it done? Not quite. Tucks back up into the slipstream and is gonna look to do it again at Village. I'm sorry, that's not Village, my mistake. That is Vale, not Village, my apologies. And not quite getting it done just yet. However, we will continue to watch this battle as these 2 drivers are neck and neck as they're now going through Abbey, and certainly they are. Mark Anthony Eaton right there with him and pulls out on the entry. This is now Village, ladies and gentlemen, and tries to take the inside line, but maybe mounts a bit too much curb, and that is gonna kill some of the momentum that he would have had going. Now we are heading back onto the hangar straight, and Mark Anthony Eaton might come under pressure from Stephen Pommels in short order, because Stephen Pommels has made his way back up the order and is now joining this fight with Kimani Eastman in tow. So these 4 drivers are looking to get into that position just outside the podium positions. This is essentially your fight for best of the rest, ladies and gentlemen, as your podium 3 have scampered off into the distance. They are a good 5 seconds clear of the rest of the field behind. So there is 2 separate races happening at the moment. Positions 1, 2, and 3 having a bit of a fight, and Roger Robinson there running wide and giving Raven Plummer that second position, and that's gonna be a costly error there from Roger Robinson, because Raven Plummer certainly can make that Chevy Cruze look a lot bigger than it is. So he's gonna have some work to do, but that gives Jaden Harrison the chance to get a bit of breathing room. He is 2.5 seconds clear of the other 2 podium positions, but we're going back to the battle taking place between Eaton, Gilles, and Pommels. Eaton currently sitting very tightly tucked in the slipstream of Gilles, and there is a glitch there, ladies and gentlemen. That is not the current running order, or at least I don't think that is the current running order. No, it is not. Okay, so we will see what the adjusted order is once it has settled, and it is still in the same order that we had left it. So We will see if Eaton yet has a bit more pace to take the fight to Gilles. And I think Eaton does have a bit more pace than Gilles at the moment, but Gilles just putting the car in all the right positions through the first few corners here, and that is gonna bring Pommels right into this fight, and it's gonna be a game of patience. Where can we get this done? And I think the idea is gonna have to be try and get the best exit possible out of Beckett's and make something happen on the run down to Stowe. And Gilles there pulling off racing line to try and break the toe of the drivers behind. But is it gonna be enough? There's still 10 minutes of racing action to go, and it looks like Pommels might be coming into the fray here and has gotten by Eaton, or the two are side by side. No, Pommels has cleared him by the time we get to Vale, and now Pommels is gonna try and take the fight to Gilles in place of Eaton. Maybe Eaton should have been a bit more aggressive there, trying to get that move done so that he could put a car between himself and Stephen Pommels. But Pommels gets the move done and will now be taking that fight to Gilles ahead of him, and the two are already side by side on the run down to Village, and Pommels with the inside line there at Village, but will be the outside at Link, and Gilles maintains the position. Will Pommels get a better run than Gilles coming onto the hangar straight? We will see what these two drivers give us, and Gilles smartly breaking the toe once again, pulling off of the racing line, but Pommels doing everything he can to maintain that point and pulls back onto racing line and sweeps around the outside at Stowe. Can he make it stick? Maybe runs a little bit wide there, and no, that is not how you get that move done. I saw the attempt, but not quite making it stick. And this fight is, I'm gonna be honest, it's not the fight I was expecting to be watching for the duration of this race, but it's a fight and a half, ladies and gentlemen. This fight is something to watch. And Pommels there sweeping around the outside at Link, and looks like he has gotten it done before we get back to Beckett's. Will Gilles be giving him the same treatment that he had been given all the time before, sitting in that slipstream, maybe waiting to try and make that move by the time we get to Stowe? I don't think he'll be close enough, and Pommels will maintain that position. But that was quite a fight, and Gilles, I am being told, is from Nova Racing, one of the counterparts of the JSRA, or one of the, well, when I say counterparts, I mean we do partnered events with them from time to time, and so certainly you can look for more of him as we get into the season that should be coming up in a few weeks' time. And he's having a look there as they approach Abbey, but not quite close enough to get that move done. Just did a small check-in on the front three there. They have spaced out a lot more than I would have expected given how close they were on the timing sheets. But again, ladies and gentlemen, this is motor racing. What it looks like on paper isn't always what you get in the race itself. But we have been treated to a fight. These four drivers from Pommels all the way down to Eastman have been fighting it out for the majority of this race, which has about 6 minutes left to go, and look at them, they all come through the corner almost simultaneously. And as we are watching here, Eaton is closing right up to Gilles, and maybe now, having seen Pommels get by, it's his turn to try and have a go. And Eaton there trying to get the run out of Beckett's and is sitting in the slipstream, but Gilles once again, the crafty racing driver that he is, pulls way off of the racing line to try and ensure that these drivers do not take the most out of that toe, and then keeps his car well planted on the inside of Stowe. That would normally compromise your exit, but he manages to get the power down quite nicely on the run up to Vale, and still manages to keep that position. And there might have been a bit of contact there as Eaton tried to slide on down the inside, but that move was never on there for Mark Anthony Eaton, and maybe a bit of frustration, but he's gonna have to keep his wits about him trying to get that move done. We are still on board with Mark Anthony Eaton trying to get the move done on Gilles, but maybe Mark Anthony Eaton running out of opportunities to do so with less than 4 minutes to go in the first race here, ladies and gentlemen. Eaton has maybe 3 laps left in which to try. It could be 4 laps actually to try and make that move before the end of the race. So as they now head onto a new lap, Eaton has fallen back just a bit, and there might have been a mistake there somewhere from Mark Anthony Eaton, because that lap looked a lot slower than would have been expected. It is also worth noting that the front tires tend to overheat at different times based on driving style and how hard you're pushing, but these are front wheel drive cars, and so you are putting a lot of momentum through those front tires, and when they do start to overheat, you do lose a bit of the turning, and that could result in compromised racing ability. But Kimani Eastman, just a little bit further back from the battle between Eaton and Gilles, maybe waiting to pounce if there is any mistake there from those two drivers. Pommel seems to have cleared off quite nicely, pulls out about a 3.5 second gap over Gilles, and I think Mark Anthony Eaton will be thinking, I need to clear this guy, because he does not have the pace that I do to maybe try and go at Pommels, but Pommels has scampered off into the distance, and Eaton is still stuck trying to find his way past Gilles. And Gilles, for all it's worth, props to him, he is defending like a lion, and certainly he is not going to make it easy for Mark Anthony Eaton to get by. He is positioning that car ever so nicely at all the right points to ensure that he keeps ahead of Mark Anthony Eaton as we are approaching the final minute and a half. But there is a follow-up lap. There is still a lap to go after time has elapsed, so certainly we will have at least 3 more laps of racing action as these drivers are now going through Stowe, heading to Vale, and they will be starting the 3rd to last lap, I guess you would say. But Eaton must be sitting in the cockpit of that car thinking, my god, all of the pace that I would have had as an advantage over this guy in front of me, and he's just managing to keep me at bay ever so nicely. I have yet to be able to find a way past, and maybe that mistake was the opening Mark Anthony Eaton needed. And will he be able to outbrake him into Village? No, Eaton mounting the curb yet again, and that is one more wasted opportunity for getting that move done. But these two drivers will certainly give us a show all the way to the end of the race. Eaton sticking with him all the way down the hangar straight, but will not be close enough to try and make a move going into Stowe. However, can he line something up for maybe the following lap? I think I'm trying to figure out where Mark could even attempt this move, because he is doing everything so correctly in terms of his defense, is Gilles, that it makes it kind of difficult to figure out how you could even set him up to try and take that move. Because I would say you might have to get a little bit unorthodox and attempt something into village, because both times he looked to have had the potential to make that move were into village, but he just mounted the curb, and that would have taken away from some of his momentum. And again, there you could see him thinking about what to do as he went into village, but he'll have one more chance at this, as this is the penultimate lap. At the end of this lap, there will be one lap to go, and I'm thinking he needs to just stay as close as is possible and send one down the inside and get his elbows out at village corner, and that will be his only chance to get this done before the end of the race. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start the final lap, and Mark Anthony Eaton once again needs to be thinking, okay, if I'm gonna get this done, I'm gonna get it done at village. But he looks too far away to even try at village this time around, so that is already putting him at a disadvantage. The only other place that he might be able to try and get this done is down the hangar straight, but will he be close enough there either? No, it does not seem so, and that would have been the opportunity that Mark was looking for, but it does not look to have come together for him here in the first race. So we will head back on board with Jaden Harrison. Raven Plummer had closed up very nicely to Jaden Harrison, but just not enough in it for her to get the victory. So Jaden Harrison comes across the line to take the victory with Raven Plummer just behind, and Roger Robinson seems to have fallen away from the front two quite a bit. Not sure what happened to him there, but he crosses the line to take the final podium position in race number 1. Pommels comes across the line in P4, and Gilles, managing to put on a spectacular display of defense, holds off Mark Anthony Eaton to round out the top 5. Eaton crosses the line in 6, Eastman 7, Keller 8, and we have Joshua Brady crossing the line for P9, and Nicholas Donald coming through club now to take P10, and Tremblay will cross the line to round out the remaining drivers in about 5 seconds time. Certainly not where we expected the action to be for race number 1, but action came at us nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen. And if you think that race had action to give us, there will be another race to come with even more action, because the top 3 drivers will be starting in P8, 9, and 10. Roger Robinson 8, Raven Plummer 9, Jaden Harrison 10, as the grid will be reversed from P10 down. So Nicholas Donald will be starting on pole from Joshua Brady, Roger Keller, Kimani Eastman, Mark Anthony Eaton, and then we have the Swifties coming up after those drivers in race number 2, which will get going in a few moments time, ladies and gentlemen, as the drivers are completing their in-laps. And now we will prepare for race number 2, which will also be a safety car start, so certainly be prepared for that once again. So whilst we await the start of race number 2, uh, we do see you guys in the chat and we do appreciate your support. Mr. Stephen Gunter has been very vocal all evening and has made mention of the DAU GT3 Solo Endurance Cup that or race 1 winner Jaden Harrison finished P2 in, and Joshua Brady, who took P9, came P7 in that race as well. And as we are still in the preseason, we are doing our best to get everything organized for the start of the coming JSRA season. The season will be starting in March, but for tomorrow's preseason race, it is the final race of the preseason, and it is the Praga Cup final. It is the Praga Cup for the final race of the preseason, and there will be an official announcement of the coming season in the following weekend during the Toge exhibition. So definitely you want to be staying tuned for that, so we could see all of what the JSRA has planned for us in the coming season. And we will be starting the season at Bathurst, it looks like, and if ever there's a track that will provide us with brilliant racing action, it is that one. But we are preparing to go racing once again, ladies and gentlemen, as the drivers are now lined up on the grid. Nicholas Donald on pole, and we will be getting going racing after we have the safety car outlap. So again, when the lights go, the safety car will lead the drivers on a one lap formation for the grid to be set and for us to get our rolling start. And I agree with Danville in the chat, this race fin to be fire, because we have the blistering pace of Jaden Harrison, Roger Robinson and Raven Plummer to come from the back of the field in order to make things happen here at the front. And Nicholas Donald will be trying his best to mount a defense and keep his position. So we are still awaiting the lights, ladies and gentlemen, in order to get going here in the second race. And once we get the lights, as they're about to come on now, the safety car will take the lead. The drivers will not be going racing immediately. The safety car will lead them on a formation lap, and it will be a rolling start at the end of the safety car lap. And there goes the safety car, and the drivers will now be following suit, and they should be maintaining position single file around the track for the duration of lap number 1. They will reform double file by the time we get back to Stowe. So the good thing about this is a very short lap, and that we should be getting some racing action coming our way in a few moments time. And as the chat is saying, this race is shaping up to be one for the books. We should be getting lots of action in this one, and I will have to pay very close attention to the live timing sheets to try and bring you as much of that action as possible. So certainly we are excited here at the JSRA for the CTCC preseason showcase, and as we will get the safety car pulling off by the time we get to the exit of Stowe. Nicholas Donald, who starts on pole, will be leading the field for the remainder of the opening lap, and let's hope we get a cleaner start this time as opposed to the incidents that may have taken place in the previous start of the race. Now, as we are rounding Vale and heading to Club, we will be getting the speed limit coming up any moment now for these drivers to get cracking. And well, it may have glitched on our system, but I'm sure the drivers are seeing what they need to see, so the lights should be going out any moment now, and Nicholas Donald should be leading the field away. And as we are heading through Abbey, already everybody looking quite bunched together, and Nicholas Donald maintains his lead. Joshua Brady looks like he is coming under pressure from the drivers behind, and we will be seeing who can make the challenge first. And there's some contact there between Nicholas Donald and Joshua Brady, and there is carnage on the track, and that will be a safety car for sure, ladies and gentlemen. That was a lot more carnage than was expected, ladies and gentlemen. But once again, this is race car driving, so these things can happen. But Kimani Eastman takes the lead coming out of that, and Jaden Harrison and Raven Plummer finding themselves in P2 and P3 before the end of lap 1. So we will have Eastman from Harrison from Plummer, and Gilles has found himself once again ahead of a lot of the field, and I'm not sure what's happening there with Joshua Brady, who is in the pits. So So Joshua Brady has rejoined in P11, and we have our grid set, ladies and gentlemen, and we will get going racing again at the end of this lap. So Kimani Eastman will have a job and a half trying to defend from Jaden Harrison and Raven Plummer behind, and then further down the order, drivers like Roger Robinson and Mark Anthony Eaton will be looking to make their way up the order as quickly as they could. Pommels as well in 7th position should have more pace in hand than a lot of the drivers ahead of him, but we will see what these drivers have to offer, as I'm guessing we've gone racing before we get back to the line, because Jaden Harrison has taken the lead away from Kimani Eastman, and everybody seems to be going at it in different parts of the order, and Raven Plummer as well taking that position away from Kimani Eastman. So Eastman not living up to the job given to him and has found himself down in P3 before we even get to Abbey on the restart lap. Now he should be able to better hold off, well, I was gonna say better hold off Gilles, but Pommel's already making light work of Gilles and will be looking to try and secure that third podium position Mark Anthony Eaton seems to have had a torrid restart and finds himself all the way down in last at the moment, as Roger Robinson has managed to move up to 7th. The field still looks fairly bunched together, but I'm not sure Eaton is right there with them. However, Raven Plummer and Jaden Harrison still seem to be going at it up ahead. Maybe Raven Plummer not trying to wait it out as she did last time, having chased Jaden Harrison for a majority of the race and not been able to make anything happen. We'll be trying to make it happen earlier rather than later. Maybe a new tactic, get aggressive as early as possible and try and gain that advantage, as Jaden Harrison there doing a bit of weaving down the straight, maybe trying to get some heat back into those tires, having had 2 laps behind the safety car consecutively. But Raven Plummer looking very racy early on, trying to get that position from Jaden Harrison and maybe thinking she can do a better job at defending than attacking in the latter stages of the race. So maybe wants to get it done early, as Pommels is taking it to Kimani Eastman behind those 2 drivers, almost neck and neck down the hangar straight. Pommels pretty much side by side with Kimani Eastman there. And will he be getting that move done by the time we exit Stowe? So it seems he has. And Kimani Eastman finds himself off the podium fairly quickly, but he is still trying to get back at Pommels there, but not enough in it. Pommels manages to hold on to that final podium paying position. Eaton, meanwhile, is quite some ways adrift of the rest of the pack and maybe has some work to do here for the next 11 minutes in order to try and make something happen for the rest of his race. But we are back on board with the 2 leaders, as Raven Plummer is definitely trying anything she can to get that position off of Jaden Harrison. She is making Jaden Harrison think, that is for sure, because she is putting her car anywhere she needs to put it in order to give Jaden Harrison a tougher time of making that corner than he should be having. We will see if she is able to make him think about it any more thoroughly by the time we get back to the line. But certainly Jaden Harrison not having the easiest go of it, as he did in the first race at this stage of the game. Looking further down the order, I am seeing that there are a few gaps here. Roger Robinson seems to be in no man's land at the moment in comparison to the rest of the field. Raven Plummer now with the fastest lap of the race, really taking the fight to Jaden Harrison, and Jaden has to be constantly checking those rearview mirrors. Goes a little wide there on the run down to Village, but keeps the inside line going through the link, and that should keep him willing to fight another day. However, all the while, these defensive maneuvers will certainly be taking life out of his tires and probably out of Raven's tires as well. But these 2 drivers not leaving it till the later stages, and Raven Plummer, they're pulling out of the slipstream by the time we get into the braking zone at Stowe, but not quite close enough. And she is harassing Jaden Harrison at the moment, maybe trying to trigger a mistake or just trying to get him out of position in order to make that maneuver. And it's looking like she doesn't care where she gets it done. She's just trying to get it done ASAP. And this is, I'm not gonna lie, this is the fight I was expecting in race number 1, but we are getting it now, ladies and gentlemen, and these 2 drivers are trying their best to ensure that they take the victory here in the second race. Jaden Harrison looking to make it 2 for 2 this evening, whereas Raven Plummer is trying to secure her first victory of the evening, making it 1 apiece for Jaden Harrison and Raven Plummer. And Raven would have taken P2 in the race before, and so therefore those 2 would be dead stamp even on points, but Jaden Harrison not making this very easy for her at all. And was that Jaden going wide there at Stowe, and that gives Raven the chance to try and make something happen, and Jaden may have saved himself there, but Raven Plummer looking almost attached to the rear bumper of Jaden Harrison's car. At the moment, there is not much between these two drivers as we start lap number 8, and I'm not sure this is what Jaden was expecting here this evening. The kind of pressure that Raven is putting on him at this stage of the game. And as we are going through Beckett once again, Raven looks to have taken the tighter line through that corner, and does that give her a better run down the hanger straight? She is certainly gaining in that slipstream, and she pulls out again, but Jaden forcing her around the outside at Stowe. This is a masterclass of defense and attack from these two drivers, certainly giving each other the respect, but with some hard-nosed fighting going on here between these two. And as we are getting ready to start lap number 9, these two drivers are not giving each other any breathing room at all. This fighting, however, might be aiding one Stephen Pommels in the process of trying to get himself into the mix for the top spot, because Pommels seems to have been gaining ever so slightly, all the while these two have been forcing each other offline and making each other's lives a little bit more difficult. So we will keep an eye on the gap to Stephen Pommels as they continue their fight, and getting very wide there on the exit of Beckett's, and as we make the run down the hanger straight, maybe Jaden Harrison there finding a bit of pace on this lap has extended the gap ever so slightly to Plummer, and we will see if she has a response here as we go into the final 6 minutes of the race. Roger Robinson has been making work of the field all the while. The front two have been battling it out, but you would have liked to think that he would have been up there in that fight, but he has not had the best race here this afternoon for the second race of the evening, and maybe looking to get at Gilles in a few laps time. But these two drivers now at the front, Plummer and Harrison, seems to have settled down for a bit. Raven not quite close enough to put the same kind of pressure on Jaden as she was before. And as I say this, maybe she is closing back up, because the gap had gone under half a second very briefly. However, it has gone right back to just about half a second there, and she still has some work to do. Kimani Eastman ever so nicely keeping ahead of Gilles, who is about 8/10 behind, and would like to put one more car between himself and Roger Robinson. As we both know, Roger is the quicker of the two. Looking at the timing sheets, Jaden Harrison and Raven Plummer seem to be matching each other, hovering around the 1:11.2 mark, and no, Raven Plummer with the fastest lap as I speak there. Raven Plummer with a 1:10.8.89, that is, and is back to harassing Jaden Harrison. She is trying her utmost to get that top spot away from Jaden Harrison before we get to the end of this race, and you can see Jaden sliding around a bit there as we get onto the hanger straight, and she is dead stamped on the gearbox of Jaden at the moment and pulls out of the slipstream side by side on the run down to Stowe, and Jaden there getting very elbows with his defense, runs wide on the exit. A little bit Max Verstappen-esque, dare I say, with his defense there, Jaden Harrison, trying to keep Raven Plummer at bay. But she will have a few more attempts at trying to get him off of that top spot. She is certainly ramping up the pressure on Harrison here in this second race, putting her car in all kinds of precarious positions, trying to get that move done on Jaden Harrison, and she is making him compromise his lines in ways that I am not sure is helping him, one, for his tires, and two, for getting or keeping ahead. And she looks that much closer this time around, less than a tenth between them, halfway down the hanger straight. And will she be squeezing him to the inside of the track? Yes, she will be. And Jaden there getting a little bit testy, bringing his elbows out on the entry to Stowe. Raven is causing him to think a lot more than he had to in the first race, and he is doing a very wonderful job at defending his position, I must say. But Raven Plummer is trying to force his hand here this evening, and so far, I mean, these two drivers are giving us a battle for the ages, and she is just trying to take any line she can to get him out of position or to get her nose in at the right spot to make something happen. And Jaden looks to have gone a little bit deep there into Village, and that puts her right back into position to attack again on the exit of Beckett's. And if she could manage to get the inside line before they get to Stowe, but Jaden Harrison defending that inside line like it was his wife. But she is just about level with him here. They are neck and neck down the hanger straight, and he manages to keep the inside line and holds her off for yet another lap. These two drivers, man, are going at it. Oh, I'm exhausted just watching them. I'm not gonna lie to you, ladies and gentlemen. They are making it extremely difficult for each other out there. Raven keeping Jaden guessing, and Jaden managing to put his car in all the right spots to keep Raven at bay. These two drivers just about managing to give each other the fight of their lives as we are approaching the penultimate lap here. I do believe by the end of this lap, time would have elapsed and there would be just one lap to go. So we will see Raven not quite close enough this time around to make the same attempt down the hanger straight. Maybe she's gonna try and get the better exit out of Stowe to maybe try and make a run somewhere else. But I think Jaden may have managed to hold her off just enough to keep the victory for race number 2, and we will see if that is the case or whether or not we're going to get 2 laps, because it's going to be quite close by the time they get to the end of this lap as to whether or not this is the penultimate lap or there will be 2 laps to go at the end of this one. So I think this will be the penultimate lap as time has now elapsed. So we should be starting the final lap here, ladies and gentlemen. And does Raven Plummer have one more attack left in her before we get to the checkered flag? She is getting close at Village once again, and she is sweeping around the outside at Village. Jaden Harrison there trying to force her inside and manages to do so. That seemed a move of somebody that figured that that may have been her best chance at securing the victory here. That was a brilliant attempt by Raven Plummer there, getting well deep on the brakes, and she is nip and tuck with him again on the run down the hanger straight. And by the time they get to Stowe, Jaden Harrison having defended the inside line once again on the exit there, and the two make a bit of contact, but they keep the cars going. And I think there that was flashing of the lights to say that is my bad, but Jaden Harrison has managed to just hold her off as they are rounding the final corner now on the exit of club. Jaden Harrison makes it 2 for 2 here this evening from Raven Plummer, who takes second in both of those races. And something happened to Pommel somewhere along the way as Gilles comes home to take P3 and Roger Robinson in P4. Eastman takes P5. And having been so enthralled with the battle of the top two, we may have missed some action further back, but certainly that was a battle for the ages. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will be taking a few interviews with the drivers from both races. However, we will start with Mr. Stephen Pommels. Stephen, can you... Stephen, can you hear me? Yeah, well... Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I can. Sorry, we just need a quick mic check to ensure that you're being heard on the stream. So just mic check for me.
Yep, 1, 2, 3. Mic check.
Okay. So, the first race, you finished just outside the podium positions, but had a pretty good race there because you were putting moves on left, right, and center. That move on Mark and then on Fernando to get yourself just outside the top four. Well, the top three, sorry. Talk us through that race.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say after that start? That was just horrible, horrendous, whatever adjective you could use for that. It was just terrible, and even the first couple of laps, I was still trying to find my feet, and everybody's all over. So I was happy that I was able to make up grounds on the guys ahead. And I think I had enough pace to somewhat catch on to the leading part, but yeah, they were just too far gone at that point. So I was just kind of in no man's land after that. So the whole race was just to kind of bring it home after that fight. But I really did enjoy the few battles that I had on the way.
Absolutely, and they were good for the show. And but in the second race, you're running P3. We were watching the two leaders battle, but then you disappeared down to the back of the grid. What happened there?
Yeah. Oh my God. It was me trying to be clever because looking at the first race, I was surprised how little laps we did. I guess because of the safety car. But I was thinking, man, maybe there's something to be had here. So I took a few liters out and I was looking back at it and I was trying to remember how much liters I had in it before. So I just put back in what I thought was right and I was just chilling. But considering the amount of liters I had in, I thought it would be more than enough. So I was really caught off guard the last lap because I was really doing well. In throughout the race, I was kind of yo-yoing between me and Raven, and seeing the battle, like, David and Goliath happening up front. I was like, oh shoot, maybe there's something here. So I was kind of pushing throughout the race. But I made a couple mistakes and I fall off. And I still was able to like bring back like a second to Raven, just off the back of how aggressive or how intense the battle was. But I was really just happy for the third place. But man, the
Yeah,
racing
no.
gods hadn't really kicked me in the nuts there.
Yeah, no, that's quite unfortunate because even on commentary, I was saying that it looked like you could have a horse in that race, given that those two were fighting so intensely. And then I look back and you're in last place, and I was very confused. But yeah, the old under fueling trick, eh?
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
sometimes you can't be too smart for your own good.
oh
But I
boy,
really love to see the battle ahead. It was like I was in the best seat in the house.
absolutely, absolutely,
So I'm
and
I'm sure it came across on stream
yep, and
at least.
we are now a few weeks away from the start of the JSRA's second season. Give us your thoughts on the upcoming season and what can we expect from Stephen Pommels going forward.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like just looking at the few test races, I mean, I'm sure some of them are just taking a mick out of things, just having fun. So it really looks like it's going to be a big kickoff for this season. For me, I guess more of the same, pretty much. One of my nickname was Peaky Blinders throughout last season in the CMSRC. Um, yeah, CMSRC. Because I was kind of like peaky. I had like some brilliant finishes, and then you have some of the like worst things that could happen to me. So I think I'll try to peter it out a little bit, but still bring the heat where I can. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to what you have in store for us for the coming season, and good luck going forward.
Yeah, man. Thanks much.
All right. That was Stephen Pommels. Next up on our interview list, we will be talking to the Sandbag King, Mr. Roger Robinson. Roger, can you hear me?
Yes, like,
Sorry, Roger, I'm not hearing you super clearly. Can you go again?
can you hear me now?
Much better.
Okay.
Mr. Robinson, first race secured P3. You kind of fell away from the two leaders. I was expecting a closer battle between the three of you. What took place there?
Yeah, I have no idea. They definitely had more pace than I did. I knew I could have done better with the qualifying, maybe P1, but my race pace wasn't there, and maybe due to the fact of setup change, but I didn't have any pace, so I just fell back a bit. I made too many mistakes at the first part of the race, so I let my teammate by because she would have put up a better fight.
Fair enough. Thinking team
Yeah.
game from preseason, I like it. Man is coming
Yeah,
for the gold in the JSRA upcoming season. And
yeah,
that second race looked trying for you there, bro.
yeah. Unfortunately, the first incident, I think two persons crashed and ended up overturning my car. So I ended up in the pits. And while in the pits, the tank was filled with gas, so it was full
Oh
tank.
my goodness.
So I was running the race with full tank. Disadvantage, yes, but I'm happy with the P5. Was it P5, P4? Happy with the P4 second race.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on your finishing positions, and we look forward to seeing more of you in the coming JSRA season, along with your team. And good luck in all of those coming races.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Yeah,
All
man.
right.
All right, cool.
All right. Bye.
And again, that was Roger Robinson, P3 in race number 1 and P4 in race number 2. We will now be talking to Miss Raven Plummer, who took second place in both the races. Raven, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Well, congratulations on P2 for race 1 and race 2. And in both races, it looks like you were trying to give Jaden a run for his money. Talk us through what happened there.
Absolutely. Well, the first race, there was a big gap between me and Jaden, so the entire time it was just me trying to lessen that gap. And, by the end of the race, I kind of got it done. Had there been a few more laps, I think I could have taken pole, honestly. In the second race, you saw that I was there behind him pretty much the entire race. And there's not really a good overtaking zone when we're so on the limit. We're both, a tenth away from each other every single lap. What I really would have liked is for the draft to have been stronger, because that was the best place to make a move on that circuit, on the straightaway. And no matter where I was from Jaden, no matter the kind of run I got, the draft was never enough to make a move stick. The best I could do is go along the outside on that long sweeping right-hander, but that's never going to stick, right? Unless Jaden is pushed very, very narrow, which we're too fast for that to work, right? Unless he locks up. That's the only way. So it was just very frustrating, always staying behind, always setting up a move, but never having the opportunity to make the move stick.
Absolutely. I did see where you tried to hold him to the inside on one of the runs down to Stowe, but I saw him get cheeky there and kind of nudged you to make sure that he had enough room to make that corner.
Yep, with these cars, a little bit of contact is completely fine. So, in my eyes, that's completely fair, and I would have done the same. And I mean, it was great racing. Don't get me wrong. Just the fact that we were so close for so long, absolutely so much fun.
Yeah, no, it was fun to watch, trust me. And we look forward to seeing more of the same in the upcoming season.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, Raven, so thanks and good luck going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so that about wraps up our broadcast here for the evening. We would have had an interview with our double race winner, Mr. Jaden Harrison, but I do believe, like a man of many talents, he is jumping into another race as we speak. So we will end the stream there, but we do definitely thank you for tuning in with us here this evening. And if you enjoyed the action, certainly there will be more to come with the race tomorrow, Praga Cup, and then definitely stay tuned to our social medias and tune in next week live for the official announcement of the 2024 season. I have been your commentator for the evening, Mr. Chad Dillon, and on behalf of the JSRA, we do thank you for tuning in, and good evening.